Nobody actually cares about your career. And this is really the point of my video. Here I am in my hotel room before the 6th show on tour, and I just thought I would like to drop a bit of advice to those upcoming musicians that nobody really talks about. The things that make you successful earlier in your career are exactly teaching you the wrong lessons for the rest of your career. Let's get into that. When you first starting out, you probably hear people say, hey, take every opportunity. Say yes to everything. And that is golden. That is true. Don't listen to jaded people like me who are like, know your value. Not yet. You don't have value yet. And I'm sure you're sick of hearing that, but it's just true. Until you have experience and until you've done something with your life and until you basically have proven yourself, people are going to value your time quite lowly, especially in music where there are so many people, probably better than you, that are willing to do it for less. And is that sad? Absolutely. Would I wish that people would value their time more? Absolutely, but that is not the world we live in. The world we live in is one where people treat music like a commodity. What does that mean? It means it's interchangeable for other things. So for example, if you go to the grocery store and Coke is too expensive, but Pepsi's on sale, you buy the Pepsi. Only the diehards go with Coke. And that's just branding. That's basically how commodities figure out a way to price themselves higher than their competitors, which that's a lesson for another day, but let's not get into that. Because music is treated that way, even though it really shouldn't be, it really should be, if we're talking pure economic goods, it should be really a luxury good. But again, another lesson for another day, it's treated like a commodity. So if you want to do it for, $500 and somebody else wants to do it for $3, well, guess what? You're out of a job. They're going to go with the other person. Now, here's the deal. You have an advantage though when you're young, and that is, to be honest, your time isn't really worth that much. How do I know this? Because I was young at some point. And the truth is, if you keep your costs super low and maybe get a little support, from the parents, from whoever, you can basically keep your costs so low that you can compete out everybody else on the cost metric. What is that doing? It's buying you experience. Now, why is that important? Here's the thing. Once you grind your teeth for a bit, you start to develop a reputation. Now, once you have a reputation, do you know what's going to happen? People are going to ask you to do things without you even putting in any input that is much better than what you're currently doing. You go from playing things that are free to $50 to food to people going, hey, I want you to play for 4 hours with me on this Sunday afternoon and it's going to pay $150. And you're like, that is still a tiny little amount of money. Basically you're making, once you factor in travel and rehearsals, minimum wage. But hey, it's the life you signed up for. You're trying to be successful as a musician. Now, what in the world are those 4-hour gigs going to do? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to start to pay your rent. Now, again, I'm talking in small podunk areas of the country. If you're living in big cities, I'm sorry, it's still not going to cut it. But if you're living in small cities, you can string together enough of these type of gigs, these sort of bar long set gigs, that you can legitimately pay your rent. How do I know this? Because I did it. I did it during college. And then teaching helped me the rest of the way for the other things besides rent and food. So that goes. So you started out doing for nothing, right? For basically free or food, and you just get the experience. Then people know who you are. Then you get into those 3-4 hour grind gigs. And these are so valuable because nobody gives a rip how you play. They just care that you're there, and you can get really good at music doing these. And it's invaluable because the experience you learn is not something that you would ever learn in a classroom. It's not something that you would ever get by looking online. You just have to go out and live it. You have to learn how to take requests. You have to learn how to navigate tipping. You got to learn how to navigate interpersonal communication, showing up on time, being professional, what to dress, all of that stuff. Now, the next thing after that you're going to get after you grind for a while on those is people are going to start to go, hey, I got this wedding band. You want to play at the wedding band? And you go, sure. And these now, it starts to change. You start making even more money. You go from 1 to 150 to 3 to 4, maybe even 5 to 7, depending on the area and what you're doing. And now you're starting to make some serious money. You can actually live off of being a corporate musician. You really can, especially if you're single, you don't have family yet. That's, again, conversation for another day. Won't go into that whole thing, but you really can. Now, what has this journey taught you in general? In many ways, it's taught you 2 lessons that you may not even noticed yet. The first is say yes to everything if there's even a small chance of success. Because the truth is, when you're offered something, you probably still aren't ready to do exactly that job. But if you say yes, you'll learn to do it. And people generally are accepting of a little bit of training on the job in the music business. A little bit, not a ton. If you go in and you're like, how do I turn on my keyboard? That's no. But if you go in and you're just like, okay, how do I know when when I'm supposed to stop the bridal processional? Nobody's gonna be like, oh, you can't be saying that thing. Don't say it to the wedding planner, but whoever your liaison is, whoever the boss is of the music side, they'll be super accommodating, especially if you're younger. So that gets you there, but you've just learned to say yes to everything. Now, you may see where I'm going with this. The truth is, at some point, you're going to transition in your career. And this is going to be a different place for everybody because we're all differently talented. We all start the journey at a different place. So I can't tell you at a certain age or a certain amount of years, but I'd say if you wanted to ballpark it, it's probably 10 years in, maybe 15 years in, you're going to start to realize, wait a second, I need to start saying no. Because the thing is, the people calling you for those free to $50 gigs at the beginning of your career, they're still calling you. And they really want you now because you are known entity and you crush. And then the people who were doing the 3 to 4 hour gigs, guess what? They still got your number. They're still calling you. And a lot of us will still be playing some of these. And hey, you're hanging with friends, you do it occasionally, more power to you. Even the best of the best touring musicians, they still will take gigs like that. And in some ways, it's important to some extent. What's my main point though? You have to start saying no, and you have to start building stuff for yourself. Now, why is that the case? Because the things that just made you successful taught you the wrong lesson for long-term success. Nobody actually cares about your career. And this is really the point of my video. Nobody cares about your career besides you. Not your family, not your friends. Your family want you to get a better paying job, and your friends honestly only care in terms of the function of how you help them. Now, they may care more about you personally, but if they're your music friends, they're so concerned about their careers, they don't have time to think about your career. What does this mean? It means that you really need to be planning in 3 ways all the freaking time. The first is you need to be thinking about long-term financial success. What does that look like? Is that starting an original group and doing the long shot, the moonshot? Nothing wrong with that. Is it starting a really solid corporate wedding band that you have ownership and agency with so that you can feel content and make what you're really worth? Is it running a backline company? Is it learning how other musical skills like mixing and mastering and producing? All of these things, you need something besides just being that super ultra talented performer. At least that's my opinion. I know some guys that just do the performing, but I'm telling you, I think you really need to hone and get something you own besides that if you really want to feel secure. The second thing is you gotta lock down the breadwinners. You gotta lock down those things that you just know, oh, if I say yes to these few things, I know my bottom line is secure, rent is paid for, food is done. And that could be teaching for some people, or it could be the corporate bands. Those are probably the 2 most common, but it can be residencies. It can be playing for hotels. There's all sorts of ways to get there. It can be accompanying. Accompanying dances for percussionists and piano is actually a really fantastic way to do that. And then the third one is what is sort of feeding your soul? What is Why did you get into music? Why are you here? That's really the final piece to this puzzle. And if you start going down and hang those three, you'll start to realize most of them will never, ever, 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 ever come from another human being. So I hopefully helped you out a little bit with this idea. Say yes, 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 until you start saying no, 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 no. I'm Robert Monroe. I hope this was helpful. Now I'm going to get ready for my 6th to 7th show, this tour. And until next time, peace out.